everybody, the pandemic's over, at least according to a couple of states, red states. That's Greg Abbott over there. He's the governor of Texas, and apparently everything's cool in Texas because yesterday he tweeted, "I just announced Texas is 100% open. Everything." I also ended the statewide mask mandate. So I don't know, it almost seems like a guy who's confessing his crimes. But the thing is that we live in a country where what he's doing, although it will kill far more people than even the most ambitious serial killer could ever expect to be able to pile up, everything he's doing is legal, I guess. And so that's what's happening. And it's not just Texas, although we will be focusing on Texas. Shortly after that announcement, Governor Tate Reeves announced that he would end Mississippi's statewide mask mandate effective Wednesday of this week, so like now. And look, Greg Abbott said that the reason that they could do this is because they are at a 4-month low in Texas for cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, which is good to see those numbers go down. They're still not great nationally though. So let's take a look at the most recent numbers. You can see there that tests are regrettably lower, and we'll talk more about that. Cases have certainly been falling, but the fall has kind of stopped. And you'll note that the number of cases per day, which has stopped falling, is still as high as that second peak was. And you know what? You know what we did nationally right around then is we started reopening, and you know what happened after that? A whole lot of people died in places like Texas. In Texas alone, JR, 44,353 people have died in just
Texas alone.
Texas. And up until now, because now they're reopening 100%. 100%, everything reopened, full capacity, no masks, all of that.
So I'm curious, because I'm not in Texas, obviously, what percentage were they open before the 100%? Because I wonder what was left closed, because I'm sure it wasn't to the degree in California. I'm seeing many people that live, Florida or whatever other states, and they're hitting the gym, and I was like, wow, gyms are open in certain states. This is amazing to me. And it just, mask wearing, but in the gym. And I was like, yeah, I think I would still avoid it, but it's up to them. But so I wonder what's left. What was the things in Texas that were like, okay, we can't open those though? I mean, bars were open in certain states way earlier too. So was bars the last realm? What was the last hurdle that Texas had to reach to get to 100 with all capitals, everything? What's the last thing that people were still clamoring to get into without their mask to make sure they breathe and spit on each other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will also say that, by the way, we're focusing on the new states that are like fully reopening, but there are other states, including states that are governed by Democrats that are not. They're not fully reopened. They're not like doing anything like that, but they are a good bit reopened. I mean, even you can go and you can in LA you can get COVID outside of Denny's right now if you want. Like we're still somewhat reopened if you want. And so the thing for me is that it would be one thing if this was a natural response to the numbers going down. If I thought it was actually being driven by that, even then it wouldn't be as good as, say, waiting a month or two so that significantly more people will have the vaccine available. This feels to me like the door is closing on COVID deaths. Let's just see how many more we can get. Come on. Oh, we're almost losing our opportunity. We got to get some more deaths. But it's the way he announced it. Can we briefly, I apologize, Brandon. Can we go briefly back to the tweet? Everything. I also ended the statewide mask mandate. That feels to me like he wants credit for it. It's not that it's objectively the best thing. He just wants to be the guy who did it. 100%. Damn the deaths. Who cares about the cases?
I did it.
Feels like.
Yeah, okay, so obviously because of that nature, which is the first thing I think everyone should notice about these tweets and the way that Governor Abbott went about it, this is a political move. So they always talk about how stop politicizing COVID, stop politicizing COVID. You talk about deaths, you talk about testing, you talk about getting the numbers down, you talk about mask mandates, you talk about businesses closing, you talk about relief bills, you talk about people out of work, all that stuff. Let's stop politicizing COVID. So when we talk about actually helping people, mass numbers of Americans, that's politicizing COVID. But announcing that you're releasing all restrictions upping all mask mandates and opening up everything with a tweet that says, I just did this, I will do this, I also did that. That is a campaign style politicizing of an event to make sure that you are the one. I remember his favorite president, Donald Trump, said, I alone can do it. This is the kind of talk and rhetoric this is. It's me, it's me, it's me. I. You guys know it's me, right? You know, when Texas was in that deep freeze and then nothing was being done, and then all of the power sources were unprepared for the event. Did you see the governor come out and going, I did this? It was me. I'm the one who was overseeing this. I'm the one who took campaign contributions and donations from large corporations and let them do whatever the hell they want. Was he saying that then? Because it was definitely him then too. So it's very calculated and talking about what they're gonna openly and boastfully take credit for. And if this doesn't work out, which I hope it does, let's keep it real.
Yeah.
I hope people don't die in Texas over this, and that they were right, and that they can open up completely and then the numbers don't go up. It's just science doesn't really lead to that direction. And also previous history, just from last year, doesn't really make us believe that that's gonna happen. But is he gonna take credit then if things go wrong? Well, we haven't seen him do that yet.
No, nor will he have to, because I mean, do they hate Trump for all the deaths? Like, why do they hate him? Anyway, yeah. I hope that somehow, against all reason, this doesn't lead to an increase in cases. That would be great for a few reasons. One, because they're humans and I don't want them to die. Two, because I have family in Texas and lived in Texas for a number of years. And also, like, let's also acknowledge, he's like, well, we don't need all of this. We can still exercise personal responsibility. But can you really? So like, I'm not gonna name names, but I know that, so the schools are totally reopened. And they say that kids can't give you COVID even though they totally can, and they can COVID themselves. So they're not vaccinating all the teachers. I know a teacher in Texas who's gonna have to be there, and I'm sure he's gonna wear a mask, but he's still gonna be constantly surrounded by dozens and dozens of people that might be giving him COVID, and he has to be there, or else he loses his job. So, like, what is personal responsibility in that case? Is he supposed to stop his career? I don't know. I have another prediction though. In addition to the prediction that this is almost certainly going to lead to more cases and more deaths, I guarantee that when it does, someone on Fox News, probably Tucker Carlson, will do a segment about how, hey, Biden said we should all wear masks. It was his dictate from the top, and yet cases are going up. Why is that? And he'll pretend to not understand that a bunch of Republican governors are prematurely reopening. And not just Republican governors, I'll remind you again, but they are the most out front about it.
Let's draw that parallel too, because remember, and this is a completely different issue, but they can still use that type of playbook. When Obamacare was out, and then all of the states had to accept the Medicaid exchanges and make sure that they took in the money. Many of those states, Republican states, rejected it, and it made it worse. It made their healthcare situation worse. It made Obamacare much more ineffective in their state. And after that happened, they look at Obamacare failing in my state. Bro, you gotta accept it. You can't reject the aspects of it and then say, oh, how dare this not work? Look at this bad plan. Yeah, the bad plan was leaving it up to you to accept the parts that would be helpful. That was the bad part of the plan. So the same way in this, just like you were saying, though things will go badly or could go badly. And if they do, then we're gonna go ahead and blame the Biden administration for what they did, somehow unrelated to this, because no one has to think clearly, no one has to have a real direct line of thought process anymore. This doesn't matter.
Exactly. Now, really just a couple other little tidbits of news that you should know that could play into this. There are, of course, more contagious variants of the virus that are circulating in the country. That has the potential to push case counts upwards. So it's a great time to just tell everyone to go out there and not wear masks anymore. Also, testing has fallen 30% in recent weeks, which is both objectively bad, but also when you have new COVID variants ripping their way through America, you probably want to be doing more testing to track that down as quickly as possible rather than less. And I also want to read one quote from the director of the CDC who said, please hear me clearly. At this level of cases with variants spreading, we stand to completely lose the hard-earned ground we have gained.
Every time.
Yeah, we still have like 60,000 cases a day. Do we want an April with 100,000 deaths? Because this is how you get an April with 100,000 deaths. I hope against, again, all reason that doesn't happen. But if the Republican governors in Texas and Mississippi are doing this, other Republican governors are gonna want to get on that gravy train. They're gonna be pushing for full reopenings.
A big state like Texas starting this, and we see how Mississippi followed suit, and that's exactly the way it could work. Now let's think about it also. My last thought on this. This is the way just humans are. You don't have to be a lib or a conservative or a red and blue state person, any of this stuff, to just be a human, especially an American right now. And we just kind of go with the flow of how things feel. It's like traffic. If everybody's speeding and you're kind of going with the flow, next thing you know, you're going 80 miles an hour, you're like, whoa, I didn't know I was going this fast. But everyone is kind of relaxed. I've relaxed in some of the things I was doing last April, not completely, but there's some things that I don't do as like everything my finger has touched. I'm gonna make sure that that's in my pocket, all that type of stuff, But in general, if you're releasing all of these restrictions and saying wide open, everything's back to normal, human nature is, even when they're not at the grocery store, whenever they're not going to the gym, people are just gonna be like, everything is fine again. Hey, everything has been lifted. And it just becomes a normal routine. So it doesn't always necessarily have to be directed at the shops and restaurants they go to, just their everyday daily lives and interacting with each other. It could be a problem.
Yeah.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.